The Dubai air was a perfumed lie, a dry, cool artifice pumped through the veins of the opulent tower to mask the desert's scorching truth. Ava Monroe felt the lie in her bones. She stood before the floor-to-ceiling window of her suite, a silhouette against a tapestry of impossible lights, the man-made constellations of a city built on mirages. Below, the Persian Gulf was a sheet of black silk, and the Burj Khalifa was a needle threading the heavens. This was the summit of ambition, the Global Innovation Summit, where futures were traded like currency and empires were born in whispered conversations over glasses of champagne that cost more than the average soul earned in a month. Her empire, Monroe Capital Tech, was a creature of a different breed. It had not been born in boardrooms, but in the quiet, furious hours of night, coded into existence with a vision of a digital world that was both elegant and just. The media, fascinated by her ascent, called her the quiet queen of fintech. They did not understand that her silence was not an absence, but a presence, a deep, still lake over which the shrieking of peacocks meant nothing. Tonight, that silence was to be sanctified, her kingdom to be merged with Leviathan. Sloan Dynamics, a corporate empire of old money and older ruthlessness, was to sign a $3.8 billion digital infrastructure merger with her firm. It was a marriage of convenience and power, a union that would make her the face of a new global entity. But she knew, with a cold clairvoyance that was her gift and her burden, that Victoria Sloan, the lioness of Sloan Dynamics, had no intention of sharing her throne, and certainly not with a woman whose skin was a testament to a history Victoria would rather forget. Ava turned from the window. The room was vast, silent, a mausoleum of modern design. She could feel the ghost of her own ambition in the air, a shimmering, anxious thing. She thought of the contract, hundreds of pages of dense legalese, a labyrinth of promises and pitfalls, and buried deep within it, like a saint's relic sealed in a cathedral wall, was her clause. Protocol 9B, a piece of poetic justice she had insisted upon, a moral tripwire that her lawyers had called paranoid, but which her soul had demanded. It was the seed of a consequence, waiting for the right kind of sin to make it bloom. The main hall was a temple to avarice, all polished marble and golden light, filled with the low, resonant hum of money and influence. On the stage, under lights so brilliant they seemed to bleach the soul, Victoria Sloan held court. She was a vision of sharp angles and cold beauty, her blonde hair a helmet, her smile a scalpel. Ava stood beside her, a study in contrast in her deep emerald gown, her stillness a stark counterpoint to Victoria's performative grace. Then came the moment, delivered with the casual cruelty of one who has never been denied. And of course, Victoria purred into the microphone, her voice dripping with a saccharine condescension that slithered into the ears of 1,000 investors and press. We are so fortunate to have a unique perspective of Ava Monroe. Many of you know her as our key diversity consultant from the U.S. She's brought such a valuable grassroots understanding to this entire endeavor. A ripple of polite, complicit laughter moved through the crowd. The words were a masterstroke of diminishment, reducing a billion-dollar architect to a token, a checkbox on a corporate social responsibility form. Ava felt the insult not as a slap, but as a chill, a sudden void with a warmth the professional respect should have been. She did not flinch. Her face became a mask of serene obsidian, her eyes holding a light that was ancient and deep. She could feel her protege, Daniel, stiffen beside her. His youthful idealism was a raw nerve, and she could feel its pain. "Ava," he whispered, his voice tight with fury. "We have to walk. Now." She turned her head just slightly, her gaze still fixed on the applauding crowd. "Not yet, Daniel," she replied, her voice a low, melodic whisper, a secret just for him. Let them finish their show. Every performance needs an audience. Inside, however, a quiet, terrible machinery had begun to turn. The first stone of revenge had been dislodged, and now it began its slow, inexorable roll down the mountain of her patience, gathering a silent, unstoppable force. Later, in the sanctuary of her limousine, gliding through the artificial canyon of lights, the mask remained. Daniel was a storm of indignation beside her, but Ava was a world away. She opened the encrypted tablet, its cool blue light washing over her composed features. Her fingers, steady and sure, navigated through layers of security until she found the file, the merger agreement. It was a digital grimoire, and she was its high priestess. She went not to the financial appendices or the operational bylaws, but to a subsection so deeply buried it was almost forgotten, a piece of legal arcana. Protocol 9B, the ethical breach clause. It was her covenant, her piece of Old Testament law woven into the fabric of their modern deal. It stated that upon verified public evidence of malicious misconduct, defamation, or bigotry from a signing executive that brought the partnership into disrepute, all integrated Sloan Dynamics digital assets will be globally frozen. It was an automated dead man switch, a ghost in the machine waiting for a spectral sin. Victoria had signed it. She had dismissed it as meaningless legalese, the paranoid fantasy of a woman overly concerned with appearances. She had not understood that for Ava, ethics were not an appearance. They were the foundation, the very bedrock of code, and to violate them was to introduce a fatal bug into the system of trust. Ava's thumb hovered over the screen. There was no rage in the gesture, only a profound and sorrowful finality. It was the closing of a book. She typed a single command to her AI compliance system, a system she had built with her own hands, a system that was more loyal than any human could ever be. Document event. Flag protocol. The command was sent, a silent arrow loosed into the digital night. Somewhere, in a server farm cooled by Arctic winds, a sequence of ones and zeros shifted, and a judgment was passed. The summons came an hour later. A private apology in Victoria's penthouse suite. Ava knew it was a trap. She could smell it, a cloying scent of fear and venom beneath the perfume of the invitation. She went anyway, a gladiator entering an arena she had already rigged. The room was a stage set for reconciliation, but Ava's senses, honed by a lifetime of reading the subtext, detected the hidden cameras, their tiny lenses like the glinting eyes of spiders in the ornate decor. Victoria played her part, a masterpiece of feigned contrition. A misunderstanding, she said, her hands fluttering like wounded birds. The pressure of the moment. You know how these things are. Ava played her part with the somber grace of a queen accepting a tribute from a subject she knew to be treacherous. Of course, Ava replied, her voice a soft caress against the tension. I apologize if my presence has, in any way, made you uncomfortable. The words were a masterpiece of their own, reflecting Victoria's own poison back at her, purified and sharpened. Victoria's eyes flickered with a triumphant smirk. She believed she had won, that she had documented the unstable partner's acceptance of a humiliating peace. But as she opened her mouth to deliver another condescending line, Ava's smartwatch vibrated once, a single, discreet pulse against her skin. It was a lover's touch, a confirmation from her other world. The screen glowed for a nanosecond with a message. Misconduct recorded. Activating Clause 9B. At that exact moment, the door to the suite burst open. Victoria's O stood there, his face the color of ash, his body trembling as if the earth itself had betrayed him. Victoria, he stammered, his voice cracking. The servers, the trading hubs, they've gone dark. We're locked out. Completely locked out of our own funds. The digital empire had just been unplugged by its own founding principles. The news spread like a neurotoxin through the summit. Panic is a quiet thing at first, a freezing of the blood before the scream. Then came the scream. Phones lit up, voices rose in pitch, and the carefully constructed world of Sloan Dynamics began to crumble into digital dust. The $3.8 billion was not stolen. It was entombed, frozen in a crypt of its own making. In the hallway, a gauntlet of flashing cameras and shouting reporters, Victoria finally cornered Ava. The mask of the elegant CO was gone, stripped away to reveal the raw, furious animal beneath. You, she hissed, her voice a ragged tear in the fabric of the corridor's chaos. You think this makes you powerful? You've ruined us both. Ava looked at her, and for the first time, she allowed a flicker of her true self to show. Not anger, but profound, weary pity. No, Victoria, she said, her voice cutting to the noise like a blade of ice. I ended a partnership that was already rotten. I merely closed the door on a room filling with gas. You can't destroy me. Victoria screamed. her composure a shattered vase on the marble floor. "I didn't," Ava replied, her gaze unwavering. "You signed the code that did." It was then that Daniel stepped forward, his face a tragedy of good intentions. He confessed in a broken whisper. His words meant only for Ava. He had told Sloan's legal team about the clause. He thought he was forcing transparency, proving Ava's fairness, ensuring Victoria would behave. He had not understood that he was handing a serpent the map to its own den, making the trap both inevitable and, in Victoria's arrogance, irresistible. The betrayal was not of the company, but of her vision, her silent, strategic heart. As he spoke, Ava's face did not fall in shock, but into a profound and lonely sorrow. The victory was complete, but it tasted of ashes. The desert sun began to set, casting long, skeletal shadows from the towers of glass and steel. Ava stood on her balcony, watching as Victoria Sloan was escorted from the summit, her career a smoldering ruin, her empire collapsing in a silent, digital scream. The reporters shouted their questions, but Ava only gave them one statement, a eulogy for a deal that never was. Ethics isn't a policy. It's a reflection. You don't lose power when you walk away. You lose it when you forget respect. Later, in the deep silence of her suite, the city a galaxy of false stars below, the victory felt hollow. The phone on the table beside her glowed incessantly. A dozen new offers. Suitors now clamoring for the hand of the queen who had slain a giant. The world saw triumph. She felt only the cold vacuum left by betrayal. A soft knock came at the door. It was Daniel, his eyes red-rimmed, begging for an absolution she did not possess. "I thought I was protecting you," he pleaded. "You could have told me your plan." She looked through him, at the ghost of the loyalty she had thought was there. "And you," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "could have trusted my silence." She walked past him, back to the balcony, to the vast, indifferent night. The wind caught the hem of her robe, a whisper of movement in the stillness. "Victory means nothing," she murmured to consuming darkness, "when respect has a body count." Below her, the city hummed its eternal electronic hymn. Somewhere in the depths of the world, servers were rebooting, a kingdom was falling, and another was being born, all under the command of her quiet, devastating will. She was a queen of a new, silent world, and her throne was built in the ruins of a disrespect she had been forced to make sacred.